Have you ever picked up a shotgun in Fallout and thought to yourself, this is too strong and good, I need it to be weaker? Yeah, that was the thought process behind the beanbag shells in Fallout New Vegas. Naturally, this begs the question, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with beanbag shells? Now, I wouldn't doubt it if any of you never touched the rounds, so here's a brief explanation on what they are. BB shells are a type of 12 gauge shells that do reduce damage in exchange for the fatigue effect. This seems like a fair trade until you realize the max amount of damage they could do is 4. Even the BB gun isn't that pathetic. With all that being said, let's start the run. The first thing I did when I loaded in was enter my character's name. You know it's going to be a good run when the name is an obscure reference to an ancient cartoon. I didn't do anything too special with the character creator, so I'll just skip to my specials. I focused primarily on luck and intelligence, as well as putting a few points into strength to hold the better shotguns. For my tag skills, I took barter to help me buy the rounds, guns for obvious reasons, and repair to help keep my shotgun in good shape. For traits, I took fast shot for a faster fire rate and built to destroy for a higher crit rate. The way I see it, the only way I'm going to be able to dish out any damage is by doing as many crits as possible, as fast as possible. After I left the doctor's house, I didn't do much in good springs. Sure, I bought a shovel from Chet and knocked over a few bottles, but in the end of the day, you are required to shoot people here. This is, of course, out of the picture, so instead I just wandered around for a bit, digging up graves. For the most part, this was completely pointless, seeing as I couldn't actually use anything I got from them. I say for the most part because one grave I dug up had the entirety of the Mojave's energy gun supply inside of it. These would help fuel my ammo needs later. Eventually, my wandering landed me in Prim, where I had to dodge a load of convicts. Thankfully, the convicts only had 9mm pistols, so I could run to the Vicky and Vance casino without taking too much damage. I was hoping someone there would be selling a sawn-off shotgun and a few shells, but sadly I was disappointed. The trip wasn't a complete waste of time, however, as I was able to make a few caps while I was there. I also stopped by the Mojave outpost while I was in the area. Similar to Good Springs, I wasn't actually able to do much while I was here, except grab Ranger Ghost's quest. This is one of the few quests I can actually do. This did mean Oliver Swanwick got away scratch-free, which is something I will never be able to let go. Something I very quickly realized is that not very many merchants sell the rounds. I stopped by multiple different merchants and no one was selling any. To top it all off, you can't really find any 12-gauge shotguns in the early game. These two obviously create a bit of a problem for me, so I needed to find a workaround and fast. The answer to my ammo problem was simple if nothing else. The gunrunners. The gunrunners sell almost every kind of ammo, including BB shells. Of course, this does mean I'm going to have to go through Deathclaw territory without a weapon, which couldn't possibly backfire. As I've mentioned before, my route to New Vegas just has me cut through Sloan and then sneak past the Deathclaws. This drops me off at Camp McCarran, where I'm free to board the monorail to the Strip. Except this time I didn't take the monorail, I had a much better idea. Instead of taking the monorail to the Strip like I always do, I decided this would be that one time I passed the credit check in Freeside. I only needed about 1,000 caps more, so one quick trip to the Atomic Wrangler fixed all my money problems. I didn't spend any time in the Strip, however, I just wanted to pass the check now rather than later. What I really wanted the caps for was the gun runners and their ammo supply. Something I just realized is that I'm a few minutes in this video and I have never explained how to get the shells. The main issue with the beanbags is not their lackluster damage, although that does play a big part. The real trouble is what you have to do to get them. You cannot craft the rounds like most others, no, you have to buy them. Now that's already pretty inconvenient, but it gets worse. Only a select few people can actually sell the shells, so I'm somewhat limited on how many I can buy. When I got to the gun runners this time, they were only selling about 20 rounds. Now I may have the gas, but I'm still missing the car. There are precious few 12-gauge shotguns I currently have access to, so I had to get a bit creative in order to get one. The gun I plan on using for the bulk of the run is a riot gun, seeing as its fast fire rate and quick reload is going to be near essential. Sadly, there are no riot guns in New Vegas that you can obtain without killing, so I need a different weapon first. My plan to get this weapon is a 5-letter word. Boom. I need a companion in order to kill anyone right now, and the only shotgun I could think of at the moment was on a person. Boone's quest is one of the few quests I could do at this point, making him the best companion choice. Novak isn't super far from Freeside, so it was only a brief trip to get there. When I did, I immediately ran to the front desk and stole a bill of sale from Miss Crawford. I then told Boone I'd help him, led Miss Crawford to the dinosaur statue, and let Boone do his job. This put Boone in debt to me forever, which is just what I needed. I then took my Boone north to the Gibson scrapyard and set him on Old Lady Gibson. The poor woman and her dogs were no match for everyone's favorite emo sniper, so before long I had a brand new shotgun in my hands. I don't really like using companions in these sorts of runs, but I didn't really see any way around this. Enough of that for now, the important thing is I now have a working weapon, meaning I can truly start the run. In order to show how truly pathetic the shells are, I feel like I needed to do the Ghost Town gunfight quest. By the time I killed the first powder ganger, almost all the other ones were killed by the townsfolk. This is going to be a long one. Obviously, the sawn-off shotgun is a poor choice for this run, which is something I need to fix right away. I know exactly how I can fix this, but it's going to be a bit of a mess. The only shotgun I can think of getting by this point is the riot gun in Gamora. If you didn't know this for whatever reason, one of the Emerdas always has a riot gun on them, making them my current target. I had already marked this trip earlier, so the only thing standing between me and my weapon of choice is a couple of men in suits. Now normally I just rush into Gamora and start making heads roll, but sadly I don't have the firepower to support that. Instead, I had to use the more refined approach of using my stealth boy to prevent the thugs from turning me into a makeshift bullet cushion. Sadly, my less than perfect sneaky skills could only get me so far without getting caught. So before long, it became a matter of can I get the shotgun without getting annihilated? The answer, of course, is yes, as after a few attempts, I got it and was able to get out. The shotgun was in very poor condition, so my topmost priority was to get it repaired. I still had plenty of money from gambling earlier, so I was able to get the shotgun fully repaired by Major Knight. It was about here where the run slowed to a crawl. The fight with the Emerdas almost completely drained my ammo pool, meaning I had to buy some more. Sure, this seems like a fairly easy task until you realize each vendor only has about 20 shells per restock. There is quite literally nothing I could do about that, so in the name of content, I spent several hours waiting for stores to restock the rounds. By the time I exited the mind-numbing cycle, I had about 600 shells. Had these been any other kind of ammo, this would be more than enough to beat the game. Sadly, this was not the case. I originally planned to use some of these shells to get revenge on the convicts at Prim, but sadly this was shut down very quickly. The convicts could soak up quite a few shots, so fighting them proved to be a tremendous waste in ammo. Instead of throwing all my hard-earned ammunition down the toilet, I decided to reload an old save and spend the ammo on some more impressive targets. That was just a roundabout way of saying that it's time to kill Benny. A full-blown shootout with the chairman is the last thing I want right now, so instead I pickpocketed Benny's key and talked to Yes Man for a bit. In case you were wondering, this lets me easily convince Swink to let me kill his boss, making my job involve a lot less smashing my head on my computer. Swank was supposed to send Benny to his room in order for me to kill him, but as this is New Vegas we're talking about, this didn't happen. No, instead everyone's favorite friend was downstairs staring intently at one of the slot machines as if it had just whispered his name. This didn't change much, as before long I was unloading as many shots as possible into his head and torso. Thankfully, the beanbag shells are most effective in one-on-one encounters, as the fatigue effect on them is pretty hefty. Sure enough, halfway through the fight, Benny was forced to take a power nap, allowing me to finish him off. I then proceeded to steal his life's work and assume his place as the new usurper of the strip. Yes, I'm siding with the funny robot, sue me. Before I help Yes Man with whatever the hell he's doing, I did some celebratory blackjack. The first of Yes Man's quests is just to remove Mr. House from the picture, which is incredibly simple. His guards may be tanky, but they're about as perceptive as a bar of soap. By the time they started firing on me, I was already entering the door to Mr. House's secret clubhouse. Now, the smart play here would be to leave Mr. House out to dry, but I have an itchy trigger finger and the patience of a person who spent half their playthrough in menus, so you best believe House got to taste a few of my precious bullets. After House is dealt with, Yes Man just has me do the meet and greet with all the factions, so I started with the Brotherhood. I plan on helping them with their problems, seeing as they'll provide me with power armor training. I cannot deal tons of damage, so I might as well take as much as possible. Right now, all I had to do was deal with Dobson, which was more costly than anything else. If you can't already tell, I was growing a little attached to my ammo collection by now, saving the bulk of it for Hoover Dam. Before I left Hidden Valley, I made sure to help Scribe Bibson with his virus minigame, seeing as Paladin Harden has the fastest questline of the two leaders. The next step for the Brotherhood is to collect the holotapes from the dead explorers, which was somewhat convenient. I had marked most of the areas the Paladins were at, excluding Nellis. Not that I'm upset by this, as it lets me stare at the boomers for a bit in order to complete the requirements for Yes Man. When I got there, I immediately started firing at George. Ironically, he ended up running from me straight into the boomer's artillery. He clearly didn't know that had he hugged the cliffside on his left, he would have survived. I, of course, knew this, so I was in and out of the airport in about 2 minutes. The Brotherhood soldiers are right outside the airport, making my job nice and easy. Well, besides the part where I had to avoid getting my legs blown off. When I returned to Hidden Valley, I made sure to give the holotapes to Hardin, which caused a Dragon Ball Z style time skip in order for the Paladin to have a quick costume change. He was so pleased in his new clothes, he decided to give me his old ones, and more importantly, teach me how to use them. Now that I had a considerable upgrade in my defenses, I figured I should finally get around to upgrading the Securitrons. The idea of me battling my way through the Cottonwood Cove and the fort is laughable, so I instead just help Caesar with his problems. By help, I mean lie to his stupid face, as I have no intentions of blowing up my one chance of making it through Hoover Dam. The turrets and Protectrons have trouble stopping me in a normal run, let alone when I have power armor. I may not be able to stop them from shooting me, but that doesn't mean squat if they can't actually damage me. When I got to the control room, I of course upgraded my minions, before strolling up to Caesar's tent to tell him that I most definitely blew up the bunker. The bulk of my work is now behind me, so really I only had to deal with the last couple of groups. The Omertas already hate me, so all good there. I already met the White Gloves while gambling, so all clear there. This leaves the Great Khans. I normally don't help the Khans because I'm not a huge fan of them, but I decided I should probably get as much help as possible for the final fight. Their quest is essentially a very long fetch quest, so I'll be just skipping over it. Just know the final conversation went along the lines of, "Hey, you're stupid, would you like to die?" And they went, "Yes, yes, I would." Gaining the Khan's help is nice, but more importantly, it marks the end of Yes Man's main quest, meaning it's almost time for Hoover Dam. First, I have to actually install Yes Man into the mainframe, which is something I forgot to do a little while ago. At least I got to watch the demonstration. Yay! Either way, I got to turn in my last quest, meaning it was time for one last thing before the end. Real quick before I start talking about the El Dorado substation and all that stuff, I thought I'd briefly address the problem with the defending the president. As much as I'd love to do this quest, sadly the game wouldn't let me. Basically, it just deleted my NCR reputation, blocking me from this quest. In case you were wondering, this also happened in my last New Vegas run. Anyways, back to current problems. I had to make it through the substation. This was as simple as walking for a bit, tinking the occasional bullet, which is something I've gotten pretty used to in this run. Before I head to the final battle, I decided I would do some last minute shopping and buy a few more rounds. At this point, I had no idea how the fight with the Legate would go, so I decided to err on the side of caution. Now it's time for the part we've all been waiting for, Hoover Dam. The fight on top of the dam played out as most combat encounters did in this run, but things changed in the interior segments. Most of the enemies inside the dam only wear light armor, allowing me to snag a few kills. To make matters better, I was able to kill a couple of Centaurians while down there, which made me feel a little better about the upcoming fight with the Legate. Speaking of the Legate, it wasn't actually that long till I made it to his camp. The Praetorians that were there were tough, but they were the least of my problems. You want to know something painful? During my conversation with Lanius, I leveled up due to passing a speech check. This level would have been enough to let me talk to the Legate into a duel, but I didn't actually have access to the skill points that I needed to pass the final check. I quickly realized fighting Lanius with his backup would be nearly impossible, so I had to reload and kill a few legionaries in order to pass the check. On to the fight with the Legate. To nobody's surprise, this was a proper mess. I died many times before I finally found a strategy that actually worked. Basically, a mixture of VATS and complex parkouring let me finally get enough shots on him to knock him out. This, in turn, let me unload as many magazines as possible into his skull, which, mixed with a high crit chance, was just enough to kill him. That was painful. Very, very painful. When I got down to Oliver, I just started the fight thinking Yes Man would deal with the Rangers for me, which was a huge mistake. For one reason or another, Yes Man refused to attack the general, resulting in me getting riddled with bullets by his Rangers. To make matters worse, I didn't save after the battle with the Legate. After repeating that whole mess again, I chose to hide when the general and his men started shooting. Thankfully, Yes Man seemed to remember what he was supposed to do this time, and turned the general into something you see in a Walmart parking lot. After all this is dealt with, I spoke with Yes Man, finishing the game and proving yes, you can beat Fallout New Vegas with beanbag shells. Yeah, don't do this. Like, seriously, do not try this challenge. Every once in a while, I come across a run that just has no fun in it. This was one of those runs. This run was painful. It was long, and it took up so much more time than they usually do. Honestly, I am lost for words on how hard these shells are to get and how awful they are. If I were to say any good thing about them, I would say that they are good on one-on-one encounters for taking down tankier opponents. That doesn't mean much when most of the enemies you encounter in game are in big groups. Regardless, that is all I have for this video. If you did enjoy, please consider subscribing. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next one.